Hello everyone and welcome to another Super Sentai merchandise review video. In today's video, I am taking a look at the vinyl figures, the large vinyl figures that were released during Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger, of which this series only has 4 vinyl figures, and it is 4 vinyl figures depicting 2 different characters. Like, we happen to have 2 vinyls of each of these characters, these being Zenkaiger, the White Ranger, and the leader of the Zenkaigers, and the other is Kaiser, the Gold Ranger, the 6th Ranger of the team. These would include their main forms and their power-up forms. And I am going to be looking over each of these Rangers in their normal Ranger form and in their Super Ranger form. Starting off, here is the regular version of Zenkaiger. Now, here's a bit of a height comparison between Zenkaiger and the other vinyl figures that I have. Now, if you want to know how tall this vinyl figure is compared to some other vinyl figures that I don't have shown here, you're going to probably need to look up other images online or check out other people's videos. This is what I have to go off of, so do excuse me if I don't show off your favorite Ranger. Now, taking a look at the vinyl figure of Zenkaiger himself, it is a mostly white figure, since this is meant to be a White Ranger, and he happens to have a cape, just as the actual Zenkaiger does, although something that is different is that the cape here is entirely white, both inside and out, whereas in the show, the cape was actually red on the inside. Now, I'm not going to bother to use a Sharpie's marker to make the inside of the cape be red, because it looks just fine the way it is, and I really don't want to, risk having to mess something up or something. And besides, it looks fine the way it is. Something to be expected from these vinyl figures is that they don't always have all of the details added on, at least from the back. They may add on the details from the front, but a lot of the time, not on the back, which doesn't bother me so much. I really like how the center of this guy has a huge red line, along with the other Sentai Ranger colors on the outer part of either side of the red line, such as having yellow lines, green lines, blue lines, and pink lines. And funnily enough, I happen to notice is that the order that these lines go in happens to be the same numerical order as the previous season of Super Sentai, Machine Sentai Kira Major, where the Red Ranger was number 1, yellow was 2, green was 3, blue was 4, and pink was 5. Or at least that was the order that they would be called in during the roll call, but nevertheless, there you have it right there. Though it seems odd that they would include the green line in there, even though there is no Ranger in Zenkaiger that is primarily green. The helmet design of Zenkaiger is reminiscent of Go Ranger, the very first season of Super Sentai that came out in 1975, a very long time before even Power Rangers was thought of. And because of that, it wasn't adapted into Power Rangers because of how old it was by the time the idea of doing Power Rangers had come into being. So you gotta understand that Super Sentai had been around way longer than Power Rangers, not just because of what Sentai we begin, but with the amount of Sentais that were out there before Power Rangers had even come into being. Much like with the rest of the Rangers, Zenkaiger has a number on his helmet, and in this case, he has the number 45, which refers to Zenkaiger being the 45th season of Super Sentai. I am not quite sure what that number could represent if it was adapted into Power Rangers. My idea is that it could probably be the year that the Power Ranger counterparts of the Go Rangers had taken place. But, It's uncertain about what Power Rangers is going to go through as of the time of the recording of this video, though I happen to be amazed that those rumors that went about has neither been confirmed or deconfirmed by Hasbro, at least as far as I know. And we don't even have an announcement of what to expect after Dino Fury, at least as of the time of the recording of this video and as of the last time I checked any information. Now we are taking a look at the power-up version of Zenkaiger, which is referred to as Super Zenkaiger. And Super Zenkaiger takes on a sort of mechanized suit. This is still a vinyl, it is not a mecha. There is a mecha for Super Zenkaiger, but we will look over that in a later video. And sticking with the tradition of bringing in references to past seasons of Super Sentai, the suit for Zenkaiger is reminiscent of Dragon Caesar from Koyu Sentai Zyuranger, also known as the Dragon Zord from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. My personal idea here is that if this was in Power Rangers, the White Ranger in this series would probably meet with Tommy Oliver, who would probably give him the powers of the Dragon Zord, and then this happens. He gets a new power-up, which grants him this armor. Now, something that is extraordinary would be how we have a white-colored Ranger wearing a power-up that is based upon a past Green Ranger's mecha, but there isn't a lot of white or green on this figure at all. We have white on the helmet, which is shown in the mouth of the Dragon Zord, and the only bit of green that is on this is the shoulders and the kneecaps, but hardly anywhere else. At least on the vinyl figure anyway. There may be some details that are missing, but I'm looking at the vinyl figure, I'm not looking at the actual Super Zenkaiger in the show. Although the original Dragon Zord didn't have very much green on it anyway, despite it being a Green Ranger Zord. The vinyl figure itself is mostly black and gray, and uses a lot of black and gray material used to make this. So anything that is green or white on this figure is most likely painted. I do like the way that this suit turned out to be. Here's a comparison between the regular Zenkaiger and Super Zenkaiger, and the Super version seems to be that bit shorter. Comparing that to one of the Kikanoid Zenkaigers, he is very, very small in comparison, which doesn't seem to be that much right to me. He just looks like he just ended up shrinking a little bit from the result of him wearing this suit. I mean, I do like the look of the vinyl figure, it is just the height that is an issue, but it doesn't bother me all that much. I do like how they added on the details of the arms, the little things that go underneath his arms. And although they didn't show a lot of detail on the back, they do show at least enough detail, at least what the figure itself is supposed to show, like whatever was part of the printing made on the figure. So, that's pretty cool. Now here we are taking a look at the Gold Ranger of the series, also known as Two Kaiser. I'm not quite sure why they call him Two Kaiser. Like, maybe it's because he is the second Ranger to wear an actual Ranger suit, rather than being, like, based upon one of the past mecha, you know, since this is an actual human being wearing a Ranger suit. Now, something that you might be familiar with would be the design of the suit. The design of Two Kaiser's suit is reminiscent of the Gokaigers, which in Power Rangers was adapted as Super Megaforce. I do just happen to have the vinyl figures from Gokaiger, and here is Gokai Red, who is pretty much the Gokaiger that this vinyl figure takes the most influence off of. I mean, there is some slight differences, but you can see the similarities between them. They do both have the same design of visor, and they do both have the pirate symbol on their helmet and on their chest, and they both appear to have the sort of jackets that all of the Gokaigers are wearing. Now, taking a look at this vinyl figure, he's pretty much one of those really gold vinyl figures compared to the other gold vinyl figures that I have looked at. I mean, he's a lot more gold than Tenbin Gold from Q Ranger, and he's a lot more gold than Patra X from Lupin Ranger vs. Powder Ranger. He's pretty much nearly the same gold as Yuso Gold, but not the same sort of gold as what we would see with Koyu Gold. And similar to the rest of the Zenkaigers, Kukaiser also has the number of the Sentai series that his suit represents, and in this case, he has the number 35 on his helmet to represent that Gokaiger was the 35th season of the Super Sentai series. If this was in Power Rangers, my idea is that the number 35 could be a reference to KO 35. With this being that this Ranger's favorite, or one of his favorite seasons, would be Power Rangers in Space. Overall, I really like the way that he turned out with all of this gold on them. It was a bit disappointing that we didn't get a different color, like maybe green or maybe black or something. I mean, I really would have liked to have seen another green-colored Ranger for this series. I mean, technically we have that for Super Zenkaiger, if you really want to count that as being a Green Ranger. But, you know, as a figure, he actually looks pretty good. Here is the Super 2 Kaiser vinyl figure, and he looks similar to the first version, but just a bit different. Like, for starters, he happens to have that V added onto his helmet, the same sort of V that you would see on Zenkaiger, and he also happens to have this sort of T-Rex head covering his chest, which is reminiscent of the Q-Rex Zord from Power Rangers Time Force, also known as whatever it was known as in Mirai Sentai Time Ranger. He is also given a cape, much like Zenkaiger. Now, something I've noticed as I am recording this is that the dark red design that he has on his gloves and the top of his boots, it's not present on his boots on the Super 2 Kaiser vinyl figure. I'm quite certain that in the actual show, it is supposed to be red like that. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. I haven't checked out what the show showed, or at least from the time that I'm recording this. But on the vinyl figure, or at least on mine, it doesn't have the red pattern on the top of the boots, which is quite a shame if they are supposed to have them. So, as a whole, the vinyl figures for Zenkaiger do look pretty neat. It is a shame that we only got 4 of them in this series, and it's also a shame that we didn't get vinyl figures of the Kikanoid Zenkaigers. I think that it would have been neat to have had vinyls of those other figures, just as vinyls, rather than just having to depend on the mecha toys to kind of fill in the gap for the vinyl figure series. And it's also a shame that we didn't get vinyl figures of Stacyzer or Zenkai Red, or any of the other Rangers in the series, like Tukai Flint, which was a Ranger form that was shown in a stage show for Zenkaiger. This is supposed to be Tukaiser's sister who was able to gain a Ranger form. And it just so happened that she also was able to take on the form of Tukaiser in with a Gokai change, as well as also when there was that episode where Kaiser and the sister had swapped bodies, he managed to transform using her body, which was quite interesting. I mean, they also did that in Dino Fury, where 4 of the Rangers had their bodies switched, but they could still transform into their own suits. That was quite interesting. So that's about all that I have to say about the Zenkaiger vinyl figures. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.